Captain Ethan Voss had spent most of his life fighting enemies he had never truly known. Since childhood, every lesson, every news broadcast, every military briefing had taught the same thing. The Elari Empire was humanity's greatest threat. Their fleets had burned colonies. Their armies had shattered worlds. Their queen was portrayed as a ruthless ruler whose existence alone prolonged the war. For years, Ethan had accepted that truth. Then the battlefield changed everything. His boots struck the metal floor of the ruined command vessel as explosions echoed through the corridors. Red emergency lights flashed above him while distant screams mixed with the roar of plasma cannons outside. "Ethan, extraction window is closing." His teammate Marcus shouted through the comm. "I'm almost there." "Oh, you've been saying that for 5 minutes. Because every corridor looks exactly the same." Marcus laughed despite the battle raging around them. "If you survive this, I'm buying you a navigation implant." "Oh, if I survive this, you're paying for the expensive model." The joke eased the tension for a moment. Then Ethan reached the central chamber. The scene before him froze him in place. The alien queen wasn't commanding armies. She was lying on the floor, wounded, alone. Several bodies surrounded her. None wore human uniforms. A betrayal. Someone from her own people had tried to kill her. The queen slowly raised her head. Her long ears framed her pale face. Silver gold hair rested across her shoulders. Violet eyes studied Ethan carefully, not with hatred but with exhaustion. For several seconds neither spoke. According to every military protocol ever written, Ethan should have ended her life. Instead, he lowered his weapon. Something felt wrong, very wrong. The woman before him looked less like a conqueror and more like someone carrying the weight of an entire civilization. "You came to kill me," she said quietly. "That's the mission." "Oh, and yet you hesitate." Ethan frowned. "You don't look like someone winning a war." A faint smile appeared on her lips. "You don't look like someone following orders." Despite the situation, Ethan almost laughed. Fair point. "Oh." An explosion shook the vessel. The queen winced from her injuries. Only then did Ethan notice the blood staining her royal uniform. "You need medical treatment. And you need a better mission." Another smile. For reasons Ethan couldn't explain, that smile felt surprisingly human. The comm channel activated again. "Ethan," Marcus yelled, "please tell me you're not having a conversation with the target." Ethan glanced upward. "I might be." Oh. There was complete silence. Then Marcus groaned. "I knew it. The galaxy is ending because you're making friends again." The queen actually laughed. A genuine laugh, not the reaction Ethan expected from the most feared ruler in known space. For a brief moment the war disappeared. There were no fleets, no armies, no propaganda, only two exhausted people trapped in the middle of a disaster. The queen's expression softened. "My name is Liriana." The words surprised him. Everyone knew her title, very few knew her name. Ethan. She nodded. The silence that followed felt strangely comfortable. Then she reached toward a damaged data crystal resting beside her. "If humanity learns what is inside this archive, the war can end." Ethan stared at it. "What is it?" "The truth." Outside, another shockwave rattled the vessel. Time was running out. Every instinct told him to leave. Every order told him to complete the mission. Yet something inside him resisted. Looking into Liriana's eyes, Ethan saw neither hatred nor deception. He saw loneliness, the same loneliness he had carried through years of war. And for the first time, the enemy standing before him no longer felt like an enemy. The realization terrified him more than any battlefield ever had, because deep down, Ethan knew his next choice would change not only his future, but the future of the entire galaxy. The alarm systems throughout the vessel suddenly shifted to a higher threat level. A distorted voice echoed through every corridor. "Royal target located. Eliminate all survivors." Liriana's expression changed immediately. "They found us." "Oh, who?" "The people who tried to kill me." Ethan looked toward the shattered doorway. "Your own soldiers." "Not mine." Before she could explain further, plasma fire tore through the corridor outside. Ethan reacted instantly. He helped Liriana stand. "We're leaving." A faint smile appeared on her face. "You just violated every military law humanity has." "I'm beginning to notice that. You could become the most wanted man in your species." "Oh, at least I'll finally be famous." For the second time, she laughed. The sound felt strangely comforting amid the chaos. Together, they moved through collapsing corridors toward the extraction zone. Marcus appeared on a holographic comm feed. The moment he saw Ethan supporting the alien queen, he nearly choked. "Oh, this is bad. It's not what it looks like." "It looks exactly like what it looks like." Ethan sighed. "Just open the gunship." Marcus stared at Liriana, then at Ethan, then back at Liriana. I leave you alone for 10 minutes. Even Liriana smiled. Minutes later, they boarded the extraction craft. As the vessel launched into orbit, the ruined battleship exploded behind them. Silence filled the cabin. For the first time in years, Ethan sat face to face with someone he had spent his entire life fighting. Neither knew what to say. Eventually, Liriana broke the silence. Why did you save me? Ethan thought for several seconds. I don't know. She studied him carefully. That's not true. No, no one risks everything for a stranger without a reason. The answer should have been simple. Duty, compassion, instinct, yet none felt complete. Something had happened when their eyes first met, something he couldn't explain. Fortunately, Marcus interrupted before Ethan had to answer. You two can discuss your feelings later. We're not discussing feelings. Marcus rolled his eyes. Sure. Hours later, they arrived at an abandoned relay station hidden beyond a nebula. It was one of humanity's forgotten listening posts, the perfect place to disappear. For several days, they remained there. Liriana recovered while Ethan examined the archive she had risked her life to protect. The information inside was shocking. Records, messages, secret transactions, evidence proving that powerful groups on both sides had deliberately prolonged the war. Entire planets had been sacrificed. Millions had died, not for victory, for profit, for power. The revelation left Ethan speechless. One evening, he found Liriana sitting alone in the station's observation chamber. She stared silently at the stars. My people believe I'm dead, she said. So do mine. Perhaps that's safer. Ethan sat beside her. You miss them. She nodded every day. The answer felt familiar. He thought about Earth, his mother, his childhood home, the family dinners he had missed because of military deployments, the years stolen by war. I miss home too. For a while neither spoke. The stars drifted beyond the glass. Countless worlds, countless lives. All trapped in the same endless conflict. Liriana finally turned toward him. Do humans fear loneliness? Ethan laughed softly. Humans practically specialize in it. She smiled. In Elari culture, there is an old belief. What beliefs? When two souls understand each other's pain completely, distance becomes meaningless. Ethan looked at her. For the first time, he noticed how natural these conversations had become. Days ago, she had been his enemy. Now he found himself searching for reasons to remain near her. The realization unsettled him, perhaps because it felt impossible, or perhaps because it felt real. Suddenly, the station's sensors activated. Warning signals filled the chamber. Marcus rushed into the room. His face had gone pale. We've got a problem. Ethan stood immediately. What happened? Marcus projected a holographic display. A massive fleet appeared, hundreds of ships, both human and Elari, heading directly toward their location. Someone had found them. Liriana stared at the approaching armada. They want us both dead. Ethan stepped closer to her without thinking. Then he made a decision. The same decision his heart had already begun making days ago. No. Liriana looked at him. No. We survived together. For several seconds, she simply stared into his eyes. Neither spoke, neither needed to. Because for the first time since the war began, neither of them felt completely alone. And outside the station, an entire galaxy was closing in. The fleet surrounded the relay station within minutes. Human warships stood beside Elari cruisers, united by a single objective: destroy Ethan Voss and Queen Liriana. Inside the station, Marcus stared at the tactical display. I always imagined dying heroically. Ethan sighed. You've been saying that for 3 days. Because every hour becomes more heroic. Despite everything, Liriana laughed. The sound eased the tension for a moment. Then reality returned. Hundreds of ships, no escape routes. No reinforcements. Only one possibility remained. The truth. Ethan inserted the archive into the station's ancient quantum transmitter. The system immediately began processing. Millions of files flooded the network. Records. Secret communications. Proof that powerful leaders, corporations, and military officials from both civilizations had secretly prolonged the war for decades. A hidden organization called the Architects stood behind it all. Every massacre, every invasion, every ceasefire that mysteriously collapsed, everything, the transmission launched across the galaxy, toward Earth, toward the Elari Empire, toward every inhabited world. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the impossible began. The fleet outside stopped advancing. Communication channels exploded with activity. Commanders demanded answers. Governments accused one another. Citizens began seeing the evidence for themselves. The lies that had sustained the war started collapsing. but the architects moved quickly. Their hidden fleet emerged from hyperspace, thousands of vessels, far larger than anything either civilization possessed. Marcus stared at the incoming armada. That's definitely worse. For once, nobody argued. The architects transmitted a single message. Truth creates chaos. Order requires obedience. Then they opened fire. The battle that followed changed history. Human ships fought beside Ilari ships. Former enemies protected one another. For the first time in generations, they shared a common cause. Ethan watched the battle unfold on the display. Something inside him felt different. Months earlier, he would have focused on victory. Now he focused on people, on lives, on protecting a future that did not yet exist. The war had changed him. Meeting Liriana had changed him even more. He was no longer fighting because he hated an enemy. He was fighting because he loved the possibility of peace. Suddenly, a warning appeared. At the center of the architect fleet was a quantum annihilation device. If activated, it would destroy every ship in the system. Human, Ilari, everyone. Only one vessel could reach it in time. Marcus immediately understood. No. Ethan looked at him. You know there's no alternative. There has to be. There is. Silence followed. Marcus lowered his head. Then he smiled sadly. I really hate it when you're right. Ethan embraced his friend. Take care of them. Then he turned toward Liriana. For several seconds, neither spoke. There were too many words and not enough time. Finally, she stepped closer. You changed my life, Ethan. You changed mine, too. You taught me that peace isn't weakness. And you taught me that trust isn't impossible. Her eyes filled with emotion. If you go, I may never see you again. Ethan gently took her hand. When I first met you, I saw an enemy. He smiled. Now I see home. For a moment, the war, the fleets, and the galaxy disappeared. There was only them. Then he left. His ship accelerated toward the weapon. The architects opened fire. Alarms screamed. Systems failed. But Ethan continued. At the final moment, he transmitted one message. Not to a government, not to a military command, to his mother. Mom, I made it back. Then the signal ended. The quantum weapon exploded. The architect fleet vanished. The war ended. Months passed. Peace treaties spread across the galaxy. Borders opened. Trade routes returned. Human and Ilari children grew up learning history instead of hatred. Liriana became one of the architects of the new peace, yet every victory carried one absence. Ethan. Many believed him dead. Even after all that time, she never stopped hoping. Then, during a celebration marking the first year of peace, sensors detected an unknown vessel emerging from deep space. The crowd fell silent. A damaged ship landed. The hatch opened. Ethan stepped forward, alive. For a moment, Liriana could not move. Then she ran toward him. The distance that war had created finally disappeared. The crowd erupted into cheers, but neither noticed. Because after everything they had endured, they had found each other again. Years later, historians would remember Ethan Voss as the soldier who ended a galactic war, but that was not how he remembered himself. He remembered being a man who chose compassion over hatred, trust over fear, love over war, and because of that choice, two civilizations found a future together. 10 years passed. The galaxy that Ethan Voss had fought to protect no longer resembled the one he had known as a soldier. Human cargo vessels crossed Ilari space without military escorts. Ilari universities accepted human students. Joint colonies appeared on worlds that had once been battlefields. Children grew up hearing stories about the Great War as something distant and almost impossible to imagine. Many of them could not understand why humanity and the Ilari had ever hated each other. Ethan considered that the greatest victory of all. He was no longer a commando, no longer a weapon, no longer a man whose entire identity revolved around survival. Instead, he spent his days helping oversee reconstruction projects across frontier systems. Sometimes he still woke from old memories, old battles, old losses, but those memories no longer controlled him. The war had ended, and somehow, after all the years of bloodshed, he had learned how to live. One evening, while returning from a diplomatic conference, Ethan sat beside Liriana aboard a transport crossing the Orion corridor. She studied a report while he pretended to read one. Pretended, because he was actually watching her. Without looking up, she smiled. You've been staring for 6 minutes. I was thinking. That's what humans call staring now. It sounds better. She laughed. Even after 10 years, hearing that laugh still felt like coming home. Many things had changed. That never did. Their relationship had survived political crises, reconstruction efforts, assassination attempts, diplomatic disasters, and one memorable incident involving Marcus accidentally insulting 3 planetary governments during the same meeting. According to Marcus, it had been a record. According to everyone else, it had been a catastrophe. Years earlier, Ethan would never have imagined finding happiness in ordinary moments. Now those moments mattered most. The quiet conversations, the shared jokes, the certainty that neither of them faced the future alone. When the transport arrived at Earth, a priority transmission awaited them. Marcus appeared immediately, older, still dramatic. Ethan. Marcus, we have a problem. You always start conversations that way. Because problems never start with good news. Liriana folded her arms. What happened? Marcus activated a holographic display. An unknown signal appeared. Unlike anything in existing records, the transmission had originated far beyond explored space, beyond the regions mapped by either civilization. Ethan frowned. I thought all architect systems were destroyed. So did everyone. The signal repeated, a sequence, a pattern, a message. For weeks scientists studied it. Eventually they uncovered the truth. The architects had not originally come from the galaxy. They had been refugees. Survivors of an ancient civilization that had collapsed millions of years earlier. The signal came from another galaxy entirely. Someone had finally answered the automated beacons left behind by the architects. Someone was coming. The discovery triggered panic across dozens of worlds. Governments feared another war. Citizens feared another invasion. News channels spoke of little else. Ethan listened to all of it, then ignored most of it. Fear had nearly destroyed the galaxy once before. He refused to let it happen again. Months later, the unknown vessel finally arrived. There was only one ship, not a fleet, not an armada. One ship. Its representatives requested contact. Nothing more. The first meeting took place on a neutral station. Human delegates attended. Ilari delegates attended. So did Ethan and Liriana. The newcomers were nothing like the monsters people had imagined. They came seeking answers about the civilization that had vanished millions of years ago. The same civilization that had eventually become the architects. The meeting lasted days, then weeks, then months. Slowly another bridge formed. Not through weapons, not through threats, through understanding. When the negotiations finally concluded, Ethan stood beside a viewing window with Marcus. The old soldier shook his head. You know what's strange? What? We spent our youth trying to survive one war. Ethan smiled, and now we're helping introduce entire galaxies to each other. Life is strange. Marcus laughed. That's probably the biggest understatement in human history. Years continued passing. Decades eventually followed. Time touched everyone. Marcus retired, then retired from retirement because, according to him, retirement was boring. Liriana remained a beloved leader. Ethan grew older, slower. His hair changed, his face changed, but the person he had become never did. One night he sat with Liriana beneath a sky shared by humans and Ilari alike. Neither spoke for a long time. Eventually she took his hand. We did it. Ethan smiled. We did. The war ended. It did. Our people survived. They did. She rested her head against his shoulder. For a while they simply enjoyed the silence. Then Ethan spoke softly. You know, when I first entered that ruined battleship, I thought I was there to change history. Liriana looked at him. Weren't you? He shook his head. No. What were you there for? Ethan smiled. It took me years to understand. She waited. I was there to meet you. For a moment neither said anything. Then she laughed quietly. After all those years, she still had the same laugh, the same eyes, the same ability to make him forget every battle he had ever fought. And in that moment, Ethan finally understood something. History would remember wars. History would remember treaties. History would remember heroes. But the most important thing that had happened in his life was much simpler. One choice. One act of compassion. One moment when he refused to see an enemy. That choice had changed everything. Years later, when Ethan Voss finally passed away peacefully surrounded by those he loved, the galaxy mourned. Human worlds mourned. Ilari worlds mourned. Even civilizations beyond their galaxy honored him. Yet his story did not truly end there. Because every ship that crossed old borders, every child who grew up without war, every friendship formed between worlds that had once been enemies carried a piece of his legacy forward. And whenever people asked how an endless war had finally ended, the answer remained surprisingly simple. It ended because one soldier chose compassion over hatred, and because one human and one alien queen proved that understanding another heart could change the fate of entire galaxies. Long after Ethan was gone, the future he helped create continued growing beyond anything he could have imagined. And that, more than any monument or legend, became his true return home. And that, more than any